Lately, it feels like more and more voices in basketball have been pushing back against Stephen A. Smith, and now Jalen Rose and Draymond Green have added to that conversation. There's plenty that could be brought up, including everything he said over the years and even his opinions on the New York Knicks after their championship run, but that's not really the focus here. The bigger discussion centers on Jaylen Brown and how his situation connects with past debates involving Russell Westbrook and Kyrie Irving. A lot of people point to the way Jaylen Brown publicly supported Kyrie Irving, while also questioning whether certain athletes seem to receive a different kind of attention in the media. Fans still remember the talk about Kyrie Irving potentially being part of the NBA's top 75 before everything surrounding him changed that conversation. Now the spotlight is shifted to Jaylen Brown missing Team USA and the growing narratives about how he's viewed, and that's where things really started gaining momentum. Those are the kinds of storylines Jamal Hill and Draymond Green were criticizing, saying they reflect the shows Stephen A. Smith represents as one of their most recognizable voices. From their perspective, that made Stephen A. Smith the person they felt needed to answer for those narratives. And they're far from the only ones raising those concerns, because the Russell Westbrook situation, including questions about why his suspension wasn't longer, has also remained part of the larger debate.
A little rope, and he found it. He also said, called the league office the other day, and this one, Gilly posted this, and this one hurt my soul, man. Like, he called the league office to see why Russell Westbrook wasn't suspended. And that just don't sit right with me. And he's a journalist, he needs information. That shit was just weak to me. So we're gonna get to Jalen Rose in a second, because that's another friend of the program. But Jack, Stephen A. Smith of late, what's going on with our guy, man?
You don't work for the league. What make you think you got the power to call and get somebody suspended? So yeah. You opening more doors to thinking now, okay, the times where you done went on TV and spoke bad about me and other players, you called and put your vote in to get people suspended? Is that what you saying? Like that's crazy that you would openly say that. And hold on, my little brother, I love you to death, but you agree with that, Perk, and you a player. You know better than that. Just imagine if you was playing and he called the league when you got into it with somebody, Serge Ibaka or somebody, and they saying it, and he called and saying, well, I think Perk needs to be suspended, taking money out your pocket and your family.
Listen to how this all starts coming together, because these moments aren't random. I'm showing these clips to highlight a pattern of incidents that have steadily frustrated NBA players and people around the league. And now, in the streaming era, they're finally responding publicly instead of staying quiet. We're eventually getting to the Jaylen Brown situation, but before we get there, it's important to understand the events that led up to it. Along the way, several moments helped shape the current conversation. One of those themes was recently brought up by Jalen Rose, who shared his perspective on Stephen A. These are just pieces of a much larger story. For example, when responding to the Kyrie Irving situation, Jalen Rose referred to Stephen A. as a media vulture. Now pay close attention to what Stephen A. says after his own public disagreements with Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes, because that's where this discussion takes another turn.
I'd like to say this to you and Stacks. Feel free to come on my show. I'm happy to come on your show in front of both of y'all faces and debate everything. I love us as a people, and I'm never gonna abandon us. My point is, you're not gonna sit up there and think that you get to define what is supposed to be important for our community when I got a clue about it, which is why I got on Matt Barnes. You wanna sit up there and you wanna talk that junk about me? What did I say? Invite me on All the Smoke. You, Steven Jackson, you wanna chirp? Invite me on. I dare you. I dare you. Let's talk issues. Don't give me emotion.
In sports or just...
I'm talking all of it.
By now, you've probably noticed the pattern in the way Stephen A. Smith handles these situations. Whenever there's a public disagreement, he often talks about bringing that person onto his show or appearing on theirs to address it. But from the athlete's perspective, that's where the frustration begins. Many of them feel the original narrative has already been created, and even if both sides sit down later, the damage to their reputation can linger long after the interview ends. Meanwhile, those appearances also generate views, attract sponsors, and help grow the platform, which is why some players question who really benefits from those conversations. Now here's where the situation shifts. When Stephen A was publicly challenged by someone outside the NBA world, specifically Serena Williams' husband, his response came across very differently. Take a look at how he reacted in that moment.
Also, too, Stephen A. Smith, I think you had some marriage advice for me. Is that right? Or
Well, you know what? Listen, I did it. People, headlines are headlines. We can get into that another time, but I was hoping you were going to be here. I am not qualified. Married? Right. Oh no, not me. Well, I ain't qualified, my brother. I'm not qualified.
I was going to ask because you hadn't been married before, right?
I am married.
No, see.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, because I give advice to plenty of founders who want to build billion-dollar companies. And the reason I do that is because I build billion-dollar companies. Yeah. So I generally try to stay in my lane as advice.
Then we'll talk marriage advice later. I've been 13 years strong. We got you. Alexis, thank you so much. Athletics NYC two-night event.
What's becoming harder to ignore is the pattern a lot of NBA players say they've noticed when it comes to Stephen A. Smith's approach to public disagreements. Instead of letting those situations play out naturally, critics argue they often turn into invitations for someone to appear on his platform or for him to appear on theirs. From the player's perspective, though, the damage may already be done by then. They believe a public narrative can stick long after the interviews end, while the media personalities involved still benefit from the added attention, sponsorships, and viewership. That's the criticism that's been building behind the scenes. But here's where some people say they noticed a different response. When Stephen A. was publicly challenged by Alexis Ohanian, Serena Williams' husband, the reaction wasn't what many expected. There wasn't a public invitation to settle things on a show or a back-and-forth discussion like people had seen in other situations. Instead, Stephen A. stayed relatively quiet while Ohanian highlighted his own business success, saying he had built billion-dollar companies and making it clear he didn't see Stephen A. as someone on his level. That response, or lack of one, became another talking point for critics. It's also why people have continued bringing up comments from Jalen Rose over the years. Rose has previously accused Stephen A. of leaning into certain storylines, including his well-known criticism of the Dallas Cowboys, arguing that those recurring takes help drive attention and ratings. Some players reportedly feel that the bigger issue goes beyond entertainment. They believe negative narratives, especially those tied to anonymous sourcing, can affect how athletes are viewed by sponsors, business partners, and the public, ultimately impacting their earning potential. More recently, Jalen Rose weighed in again with another pointed message. He said one of the most phony trends in sports media is when people create public beefs only to invite each other onto their shows to capitalize on the attention. In his view, that's nothing more than chasing clicks. Rose also made it clear that he's comfortable speaking his mind, regardless of how others react. He even pointed back to his own ESPN days, saying he had already proven himself at the top of sports debate, and jokingly referenced how he and Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless used to battle on television. And this wasn't the only example being discussed. After earlier situations involving Jackson Stephen, Matt Barnes, Jamel Hill, and Draymond Green, another clip surfaced that many felt reinforced the same conversation about how these public disputes continue to play out.
My name came up, and he spoke about a couple of things that I felt compelled to address. Even while I'm on vacation, I felt compelled to respond. You and I were pretty tight. And then after the choking incident with Rudy Gobert and the slap to Yusuf Nurkic, I upset you because I called you and said it was difficult to defend you. We've never talked since that time. You never called me and had a conversation man to man. Did I bring up the fact that you were willing to give that opportunity to Skip Bayless, but you've never given me that opportunity? You've never invited me on Draymond Green's show since we haven't spoken, privately or publicly. Name the time and place, bro. Ain't no problem for me. Anytime, any place, anywhere, bro. I bring the camera crew to you and everything. Whatever you want.
Stephen A.'s response also brought another example into the conversation that critics have been pointing to. Even while he was on vacation, he said he felt the need to address comments made by Draymond Green because he believed several issues needed to be cleared up. Stephen A. explained that the two had once been close, but everything changed after Draymond's incidents involving Rudy Gobert and then Yusuf Nurkic. According to Stephen A., he called Draymond at the time and admitted it was becoming increasingly difficult to defend him publicly after those situations. He said that conversation effectively ended their relationship, claiming they hadn't spoken since because Draymond never reached back out for a direct man-to-man discussion. Stephen A. also pointed out something that bothered him. He questioned why Draymond had been willing to sit down with Skip Bayless but had never extended that same opportunity to him on the Draymond Green show. Then Stephen A. made his position crystal clear. He challenged Draymond openly, saying there was no issue on his end and that he was willing to have the conversation anytime, anywhere. He even added that he'd bring his own camera crew if that's what it took to make it happen. That's the approach many people have become familiar with whenever these public disagreements surface. So the obvious question became whether that same strategy would be used again. After Stephen A's public disagreement with Jaylen Brown, people started watching to see if he'd once again respond by offering a face-to-face conversation, just as he had with Draymond Green, Jamel Hill, Steven Jackson, and Matt Barnes, or if this situation would unfold differently.
Me, you want to question my ethics or whatever, name the time and place, bro. Matter of fact, don't name the place. You can name the time, but not the place. We gonna do it on my set, because I ain't coming to that dungeon. That's what you want? You want to have that conversation? You want to really sit across from me and have a conversation about that?
At the heart of this debate, a lot of people believe Stephen A. Smith is approaching these situations from a business perspective, while the athletes involved are looking at them very differently. From their point of view, they already have careers, endorsements, and reputations to protect outside of sports media. So when a public narrative gets created and they're later invited onto a show to address it, some feel the appearance benefits the platform more than it benefits them. The concern isn't necessarily about having the conversation, it's about how that conversation could be framed afterward. Critics argue that once the interview is over, it can easily be presented as if Stephen A. confronted the athlete face-to-face, stood by everything he said, and the player had no real response. Whether that's the intent or not, some believe that's exactly how those appearances come across. That's one reason many think certain players have become hesitant to accept those invitations. Jaylen Brown is often mentioned as an example. He's already appeared on Stephen A's platform before, yet after more public criticism followed, some people believe Brown now sees the situation as an ongoing cycle that continues generating attention around his name. From that perspective, returning for another interview may not seem worthwhile. The bigger point, though, is how much the media landscape has changed. Years ago, shows like First Take had far more control over the daily conversation. Today, that isn't the case. Athletes have podcasts, social media platforms, live streams, and direct access to fans, meaning a narrative can shift within minutes depending on who responds and what new information comes out. Because of that, many believe sports personalities now have an even greater responsibility to make sure the information they share is as accurate and well supported as possible. The speaker even pointed to past situations involving Allen Iverson, noting how stories can quickly evolve once additional context starts emerging. That's why the advice offered here is straightforward. Before making strong public claims, especially relying on unnamed sources, make sure the evidence is solid enough to stand up to scrutiny. At the end of the day, athletes are always going to defend their reputation, their image, and their livelihood whenever they believe those things are being challenged. That's ultimately the point this discussion is trying to make.
You bring up the Rudy Gobert and the Yusef Nurkic incident because that's Stephen A's way of trying to lessen the impact of what you may say back. I'm going to throw out these negative ass things that happened with you many years ago that you've come back from, that you've moved past. I'm going to throw those things out to try to gather an audience, to try to gather a crew to be on my side, a base of people to be on my side. So I'm going to throw these things out to remind these people that may have been upset that you did that because they may not like those types of things or whatever. I'm going to remind them of that so they can be on my side when I say this. A typical Stephen A thing. He said we have not spoke since. I think that, those things happen to be right around the time where a lot of people in the industry felt like this dude took this sharp left turn, and all of a sudden became like this. You speak on Jaylen Brown. The problem I had with Stephen A and Jaylen Brown was when you called him out like a mob boss. When you sat in front of the camera and spoke as if you saw him, you was going to do something to him. That's the problem I had when speaking about Jaylen Brown. The issue that I have, and by the way, it's not a real issue because people, again, I go back to the statement I made about Shams, which these are in two completely different capacities. But get your money how you get your money, man. Like I'm not mad at anybody for how they get their money. that's including Stephen A. So for a guy who actually, yes, what he is right about is we were pretty tight. As was Stephen A. with a lot of guys, by the way. Like, that wasn't just me. I think, and being in the media space, I think we had built even more of a relationship because he is the guy in the media space. You know, when you look at him, he is right up there at the top of the chart with Charles Barkley and, you know, for the likes of people like that. Like, you are that. I'm not some hater. I'm also a truth teller. You very much so are right up there at the top, and very appreciative throughout the years of the advice given, as someone who's continued to try to elevate and learn and work in this space. So yeah, those are all facts. Just like a lot of players having a relationship with you were facts, until you started to disrespect players as if you were a player. There's a fine line. And Jamel and my